so amusing to see the waves go crash down on me and drag me into the sea. Why's it so easy to be so indifferent to me when I wear my heart on my sleeve?
Welcome to Skechcraft, the podcast for art, design, and process junkies. I'm Rob Duenas, full-time designer, illustrator, and graphic artist Esquire. This is an unedited podcast, which means there will be cursing from time to time, so please be aware. That said, here we go.
Like a willow tree, getting pulled down by gravity. By gravity. My gravity. My gravity.
Do 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 do. And welcome back to Skechcraft, the podcast for art, design, and process junkies. I'm Rob Duenas, graphic artist Esquire. I've returned. Skechcraft. My goodness, it is late in the evening for me. Awfully late to be doing the podcast. But that's the way it rolls. Mondays are the day I'm going to record, come hell or high water. So if you're new to the podcast, well, good luck. You're late to the show. If you are new to the podcast, feel free to take a look at all the other episodes I have available up at our iTunes. You can go to Skechcraft at sketchcraft.com and the podcast sketchcraft.com. Links to the podcast, links to all my videos and artwork is there. And let's move on with it. So, been a busy week. So last week's episode, I did an audio commentary for the Iron Man Saucy video that I had put together for last spring's Avenger set. So today's episode, we're just going to get caught up on all the various things going on in my life because I need to put this stuff down. Someday I remember this and go, wow, Rob, really? You complained? Let's begin with some news. Commissions update. So in the link section, I have links to all this stuff. First news bit is the Spidey cover commission I did. Spidey sketch cover. So I did this about over a week ago. Wrapped it up. It was commission I did online. Client sent me over a sketch cover to draw on. Took long enough. Interesting part though is I recorded the drawing of it with my webcams, like I do everything else around here, and decided to, hey, let's just render this out and get this up pretty quickly. And the last week or so, I have been in rendering hell. For some reason, Premiere has decided to not render the video at the speed rate, the frame rate that I need it to go. I increased the speed from, 5 hours to 20, 40 minutes, give or take. And that's somewhere around 700, 800% in terms of speed. And Premiere just crashed. I mean, a brand new computer. I got all the updated drivers. It just didn't want to do it. I tried every other thing. New drives, rendered new videos, turned off effects, tried different speed rates. Just didn't want to do it for some reason. Works on other videos, but on this one I didn't want to do it. So I ran into a problem this week, and do I just give up? And because I like to drag things out a whole lot further than they should, I decided not to quit and look to an alternate solution. So my process for making these videos is such: the webcam that records these videos records them in an uncompressed AVI container. Uncompressed Windows Media video container, which, if you know anything about WMVs, they suck all ass. So I didn't take those uncompressed files, which are huge. Like, they could be several videos. I don't try to record any longer than an hour at a time, so it can be anywhere from 4 or 5 videos. On average, about 5 videos. Most of my work takes me about 4 or 5 hours. So I take those and they run about 10, 20 gigs a piece. So that's a lot of memory. I have rendered them to an external drive, and then I plug that external drive from my main computer to my video workstation. I don't capture from my video workstation because I'm usually rendering while I'm capturing, so I don't want to cross over. So I usually capture from my main computer. So the video station then takes those Windows Media videos. Now, if you know anything about WMVs, you can't really edit them in Premiere. And the reason why I use Premiere is because I was taught how to use Premiere when I was in college, and I'm trying to get my money back on that fucking degree. So I know Premiere pretty well, and I also know how finicky Premiere can be. So it doesn't like WMV containers. So I use AVS. It's sort of this generic video software you can get off the internet, and they have a pretty good conversion tool. You can convert any video into another video. And I think it was like $60, and I get all access to all their videos forever. So I just paid the $60 last spring, and it's your commissions. Go to pay for that. And I put the WMVs into that, and it merges all of those into one uncompressed AVI. That AVI I put back into Premiere to render out. Now I do a lot of different audio mixing and stuff in Premiere. Same with this podcast. I do all my mixing sort of in Premiere, and then I sort of enhance the audio and sound booth, and it's just a process I've gotten used to. So when Premiere didn't work, what I did is I took that AVI, and AVS also has a video editing software suite. It's pretty generic, but what it does have is a speed button to increase the speed rate, and I have a feeling that the problem that Premiere is having is chunking the speed, right? For some reason, it just has a hard time crunching those numbers sometimes. So AVS's video editor had no problem doing that. Matter of fact, it got it done like in 40 minutes, which is crazy because usually it takes like 12 hours to render a video from Premiere. So I then took that, put it back into Premiere with the file I already had set up with music and everything, and I exported it out in about 30 minutes. So I ended up, in some weird way, it was like a blessing, because this is actually the genius way to do things, because now I can get this done. I can literally put a video in, and in one day have it uploading to YouTube. YouTube can take a little long to upload, so like I had started uploading it about an hour ago, and it was almost done, but because I have to do a lot of different things and I have to send some files around in the middle of the night, I had to stop that, and I'll start it back up when I go to sleep here in about 30 minutes. So to make a long story short, AVS is some pretty cool, affordable software if you're trying to find something that you don't want to rip stuff off, you want to be legit, but you're on a budget. It's pretty sturdy little stuff, all things considered. And that conversion software is pretty interesting because, like right now, I have a DeviantArt film editor capability, and I haven't put anything up in a while because it's a pain to re-render the videos from Premiere. However, the conversion tool that I have will convert my AVIs or my MP4s, my final MP4s, to FLV files, which is what DeviantArt uses. And then DeviantArt has like a time limit and file size limit. So I set the file size limit based on how much time I want them to be. And it's already done. Like, it's ready to go on Deviant. So it's crazy. It's crazy awesome. So I can just take the same videos now and just cut them up and then upload them into Deviant, which has always been the plan. But so it's been a really interesting. So sometimes you can turn these things that pull your hair out into things that well, I don't have a metaphor for that, but sometimes these pain in the ass things can turn into blessings in disguise. So pretty cool. Secondly, with the Spidey cover, I have decided to color it, and I'm going to turn it into a print set. I started coloring it last week. I took the weekend off, and I'll get into another reason why I did that. So I plan on finishing it last Saturday, but I'll finish it this weekend. Every month I'm doing like a personal project, just to sort of increase a portfolio or to try something different, because over the past 4 years I just haven't done anything like that. So this is that first step. And with this, I'm going to have the color version, which I had to actually extend the sides because the sketch cover doesn't come out to a full 11 by 17. So that's fun. And so I'll have that. I'll have the line art, and I'm going to do like a little quick model sheet lineup of all the different Spider-Man characters that I did on the cover. And then put those three together, maybe a process print, and call that a set. Now, the problem I've been having with the coloring, one, I'm a little unfamiliar with the process that I'm doing. I'm sort of, it's been a while since I've colored over my pencils like this. The last time I had even done this was starting on that Spawn piece I did like a year ago that I haven't finished. So I'm a little rusty on that end. And two, I've been live streaming while I'm capturing video, screen capturing from Camtasia. I use two different ways to capture video. If I have physical art, I capture from a webcam, which sits above my head on this desk shelf I have. If I'm capturing from a computer, I use Camtasia, which records directly from the screen. So being that I'm coloring in Photoshop, I'm capturing from Camtasia. And it just, to live stream and to capture, just kills my frame rate and really creates an uncomfortable situation while I'm coloring. So as much as I would like to, I don't think it's going to be possible for me to live stream and capture video from now on. Yeah, I don't really have a good way for doing that yet. So I'm working out when the good time to live stream is. I want to live stream. However, it does slow things down when I work. So I'm thinking now I might just stick with when I'm physically drawing for live stream. But because I can always record anything physical, I'll probably do live stream because I can always record from my second camera while I'm doing that, which I have to repair. These things are falling down. But digital files, I don't know if I'll be live streaming while I record anymore. Because, again, like I said, it just kills the frame rates. That's it for that. Let's move on. So secondly, I just wrapped up my Daphne commission, Daphne from Dragon's Lair, for Patrick Finch, who paid me at PhoenixCon to do that, and I was too fucking tired to do it. So 4 or 5 months later, I get it done. I hooked it up for him. Interesting process. I call these softy shots. Over sometime starting in January or so, or post-Christmas, I plan on sort of revamping my whole Deviant and my commission thing. So I've been coming up with different names for commissions, which I started about a year ago, but I'll really focus in on those names and what they are. But right now I'm calling these softy shots, which are it's a really clean sort of way of coloring with Prismacolors and dry pastel. And sorry, I got this coffee. It's giving me a little bit of the sniffles. I'll try to limit that. And I haven't really messed with Prisma and pastel like that in a while, a long while. So it was really slow going coloring this thing. I actually had started recording it on the on my webcam, but the Logitechs just for some reason they corrupted the files. I don't know why. So I've switched drives that I was rendering to. I think it might be a drive issue. In the meantime, it brought up a lot of interesting stuff. So I did this on this thinner paper. It's like a marker paper kind of, B paper. And I normally like to do stuff on Bristol board because of the weight. However, the smoothness of this stuff was much better for the Prismacolors. But moving forward, obviously with my watercolor and stuff, I like to work on those boards. What I'm trying to get at is printing. Normally, what I do when I do these oversized pieces, I take my rough layout and I print very lightly onto the paper. And because I was doing a lot of experimentation with watercolor and stuff like that, I just ran into an issue while I was working on it for watercolor pieces. That printing onto boards is no longer going to work for me. So I had to get a new projector. I had to get a projector. Like an old school big lamp that sits above your desk and projects a drawing down onto it. So I'll be taking photographs of that as I work on the next piece. But this Daphne piece brought that up, even though it didn't really directly affect me on this piece. A couple other quick things. So one of the things I learned while doing this is I use dry pastel, not so much to render in pastel, but to sort of blend and add color and hue into the Prismacolors. So I sort of started off with a marker base for my shades. Well, first I rendered the thing in Kohl Erase, and then like a red, because I wanted it to be soft. And then I used Prismacolor to go on over the lines I needed. I added a little bit of sepia ink around her skin. And then I I use a dry pastel as I go dark with the Prismacolors. I use a dry pastel with my fingers, right? Mixing the stuff in to sort of blend through and add some softness to the Prismas. And the way you do that is you get these sticks, and you can get like a pair of scissors, and you could scrape the pastels off onto a paper and then sort of manually mix them. And since I'm not really rendering fully in Prisma, the one thing I can say is you can use student grade dry pastels for this approach. You don't have to use super expensive like the ones that cost, say, $200 for like a 32-piece set. I got like 144 little sticks for like $40. Every color you can imagine. So I highly recommend sticking to student grade materials if you're going to buy materials until you sort of master the stuff you're doing, or you sort of get a really good handle on it, because the quality might be a little bit this and that. Being that you don't really know the tools, you don't have a function, or you have a really good ability to sort of grasp the finer details of these tools, I don't recommend spending a lot of money on stuff until you get a handle on it. The other thing I did with this, I took my time with this piece. Probably a little too long. It would have been done Friday night, but like I said, I took some time off this weekend. And then the video capture failed, so I just gave up. One of the things I did do is have it sort of pinned to a little board I work on, and I tend to work vertically a lot when I'm painting, just the way it works out. So actually painting for the live camera is actually harder for me. So with this, I just brought up the fact that towards the future, sometime next year, I'm going to have to get like an actual art stand that's a little bit more vertical. And I'm going to set up a whole painting station, and I'm going to have to build a video camera that actually sits on like a stand or something. So I'll probably get like one of those tripods, I'll stick a webcam up on there, and sort of record over my shoulder from then on. So that's something I have to think about in the future. One last thing, while you're working with dry pastel, if you're going to be using anything over that, you want to seal in the pastels as you work. You want to get a really good coat, and once you get kind of like a base where you're going back over with Prismacolors or something, and it's kind of moving the pastel around, you're going to have to seal it in with a fixative. And I recommend using Grumbacher fixative. It doesn't smell that bad, and it doesn't really affect the texture that much on the pastel. So there's all sorts of techniques for using fixative. Generally, I set the artwork up vertically outside, and then you sort of hold the can out about a few inches from the piece and spray it and let the mist fall onto the art. You don't want to directly spray onto it. And then you let it sit for like 30 minutes or so, and it should dry pretty good, and sometimes an hour. And when you come back, it's pretty much sealed in. So that's sort of how I did that, and then went back over with Prisma and then back over dry pastel. Maybe 2 passes on that, and then I did a third sealant before I added in the highlights, which are white gouache. And I'm moving back to acrylic gouache. Holbein makes an acrylic gouache. It's crazy, right? And what's really cool about that is when it's wet, you can add water to it and dilute it and keep it wet and moist. Once it dries, it seals like acrylics. It's dry forever. It's going to be waterproof. Crazy, right? Like, I don't know how they did it. But the beauty of that is I found that once it's sealed dry, you can paint over it. You can add Copics over it. It's not gonna come back up. Not gonna smear. You can paint with watercolor and it'll stay sealed in. You don't have to stress over that. So just really good stuff. I'm gonna go back to that instead of the white gouache. Let's see what else. Let's see what the 17-minute mark. So let me talk a little Zen with y'all. Stress. So the past couple weeks, I think I've been pretty honest since August about kind of hitting like that breaking point, which is a rare thing for me to hit. Don't I think of once or twice in my life when that's happened. So since then, I've been doing what I can to remove as much work as possible and try to make art fun again. And the past week, I've been getting a twitch in my right eye. I looked up what might be causing that. And 2 or 3 things can be an issue. Lack of sleep, too much caffeine, and stress. And those are like the 3 key ingredients to being an artist. And if you don't have those 3, I don't know. I've never lived without them. So I got plenty of sleep. I kicked out the caffeine. And I spent the entire weekend working on, I got my birthday present, which was a new PC for my TV, so I can play video games and stuff out there. Because I play a lot of PC games now, like Minecraft and stuff. And I didn't have the eye twitchy all weekend. So Sunday, I took my time, came into the studio around 2 p.m., sat down to paint, and my eyes started twitching again. So it's stress. And I guess even though I'm cool with working, I guess mentally somewhere in there, something in there is not cool with it still. So it's chilled out a bit, and I'm working on making this all fun again. I just think that there's some trauma going on, sort of self-diagnosis. But that sort of comes from, a friend of mine had asked me a question recently about if I felt that the pursuit of trying to make money off my art sort of has limited me or created trouble. And I sort of feel like the making money part hasn't really been the problem. It's doing everything right now, like doing everything as fast as possible. And so what these time limits have sort of accrued or sort of created is nothing gets done. Nothing gets done, and it's just a vicious cycle of self-defeat. So not every artist goes through. Some people just don't have problems, but I'm going through a rough patch, and I am working through it the best I can. My remedy around this, like I said, was to spend most of my weekend playing Minecraft, and then finish up that Daphne piece. And Mondays now are my podcast recording time that I'm making for me to get my videos going for the week, to get the podcast going for the week, sort of update any DeviantArt posts and stuff like that. And it's starting to work out pretty good. I've already done it the last couple weeks, and I'm going to keep pushing it. But all things, that being said, a couple of extra things I've had to work on, I've had planned on working on are cut out. And let's move on to the fourth item on my list, Game Cave Magazine. So I had started this with my buddy James Bacon as a way to sort of do like a video game magazine, use all those tools I had built at GameFam, and sort of produce something available 4 times a year. And it sort of ended before it started. I'm not going to get into a lot of like mudslinging. I love James. He's a great guy. It's just a case of I just think that a lot more work was involved than some people expected, and I could just see it just wasn't really working out. And the work was fine. James is great to work with, but these projects, when you start to go on a project that's going to create a deadline in your life, it requires a lot of commitment, and sort of why bands don't work half the time, like they fail so often, because you can want to do it and you can be really genuinely honestly and passionately committed to doing something, but then you find that, well, okay, I gotta go do this, and then I got this to do, and then this over here, and I'm gonna work on this on Friday, and then, oh, by the way, okay, didn't work on Friday, I'll take the weekend to do it, I'll get to you Monday, and then it ends up being like Tuesday night, Wednesday morning you get something, but the other person had planned on working everything the weekend before, so that pushes everything a weekend back, and then maybe you didn't get all things right because you weren't really totally focused on it when you did it, you were kind of shorthanding, and so then the other person has to go back and make notes and say, hey, you forgot all this stuff, and there's this again, like when you're working with someone, you have to basically, in my opinion, you have to be able to read each other's thoughts. The other person should just know instinctively, oh, I got this, I got this, I got that. And the minute you start, like, I know for me, the minute I'm starting to tell someone, oh, you got to get this and you got to get that, then it's like I got like an employee, and I've managed enough people in my life to not ever want to do it ever again, ever. So I don't like managing people. I prefer to train people and then put them in a position to manage themselves, and I don't believe in micromanagement at all. And when you start to build something with someone, that person has, that's a whole nother thing. They have to not only get what's going on, but be able to anticipate things you couldn't. And if you're not in that synergetic relationship with someone while you're working with them or creating something with them, then it's probably not going to work out. And I've done this enough. I've failed enough in my career so far to know failure coming a mile away. So I backed out of that pretty quickly just to save everyone some face. And to give James, I mean, the guy's got enough going on in his life. He doesn't need stupid video game magazine chasing him down. So so I moved that off the shelf. It's another lesson in life to just try not to talk about too many projects before they've started. And put it over there maybe someday. So that is that. Let's move on to... That being said, will I ever make a magazine again? And the answer is yes and no. Let's start with no. No in that I will never make a major magazine ever again unless Dave Halverson somehow comes into like $100 million and can pay me more money than I've ever seen. It's never going to happen. However, when I say yes, in a way, yeah. I've been getting requests for like a long time to do an art book. And the reason why I haven't is because I refuse to pony up, $1,000 or two to make an art book that just collects my art. And I don't know, it's never sat well with me. So in the spirit of Skechcraft, trying to figure out a way to continually promote the podcast, also to create something that, when I go to cons, there's different tools I bring for myself. I make little pose guides, I make little lighting guides, shorthand stuff for me, because when I go to cons, it's hard enough for me to remember. Like I'm selling a lot of stuff. I don't sit there and kind of doodle and let people walk by the table and decide to buy something. I mean, I really get out there and push my shit. Not obnoxiously, not dragging people to the table, but I'm really engaged. So when I draw there, I have a lot of tools that I've created for myself, as well as different tips that I learn and I've written down. And I tend to lose track of that stuff. So what I've decided to do is take Skechcraft and make it into a quarterly magazine in a way. So it'll be one part, what you see in the podcast where it's tutorial, one part these verbal podcasts where I sort of talk about, stress, or I talk about different aspects of art and stuff that no one else kind of talks about. That'll be in there. And then obviously the tools, the shorthand guides, and then there'll be a whole section of just my art, So it'll be one part process and tutorial stuff, and then one part art book. And then as I sort of build more things, that'll be in there too. So right now I don't know if it'll be 24 or 48 pages. Depends on how I'm working it out. I'm leaning more towards 48, so it'll be like half and half. And my goal is to try and get the first one out before Christmas, like around the 12th of December or so, but we'll see how that goes. If not, then I'll push it up by after Christmas for January. And then we'll work out a schedule after that. So that's the goal with Skechcraft, the magazine. But that's a long term. I mean, that's something I'm going to build and continue to grow the cast as best I can. Plus, like I said, I've been trying to document my work in some way for some reason. So it's just another way to do that. And to put all those magazine skills to use, because I like to think that I got something out of all that. So that being said, what am I working on now? I got commissions I'm still working on. Right now I'm pushing one fully painted piece a week and then a couple pencils. So I'm jumping back and forth. This week is going to be pencils. A couple pencil pieces I got to get caught up on. And then I'll move back to, I think I got 2 more paintings before I can start to look at new commissions. So I still have Fina Seek to paint, and then I have another Saucy one to paint. And then I'm caught up on that. And a couple more pencils and I'm done. And then what else? So Mass Effect. I plan on finishing this. The Mass Effect trilogy ships next month. So sometime in the next week or two, I'll announce pre-orders for that. I already have half the work done. I have some plans for additional stuff. This time I'm going to try a different approach beyond just doing the base print set, which is like 6 prints. I'm going to also offer like 6 prints plus an extra thing, plus a couple extra goodies for like a higher price. So if the base set is $25, then the deluxe set would be like 40. And believe me, there'll be some cool goodies. So I'm working on that, and I got to get all the roughies done for the extra stuff first, and then I'm going to package it all up. So in the next week or two, I'll have that announced, and of course I'll walk through it here on the cast. And then lastly, Working on Monstroids again. Working on Monstroids. I think I've mentioned this before. Monstroids, we have a long history. Next week, I'm starting the Making Monstroids podcast. So I will start to chronicle the history I have with the project, what the characters are, and then we'll go into what I'm doing now with it and getting user feedback. Sorry. I have some curious things to see what people think. Right now, I have a link. You can see Monstroids art. There's a redesign I did of Frankenborg about a year ago. And if you don't know what Monstroids are, basically it's a project I've been working on off and on now for a long time with my buddy Kevin Grievous, who wrote all those Underworld movies. So, amongst a bunch of other crap. And he's got a new movie coming out next year called I, Frankenstein with that dude who played Two-Face. Pretty cool. So, it's basically a kid's property. It's like monsters get rebuilt to blow up crime. Somewhere between, it's like a cross between like RoboCop and like, Transformers and Ninja Turtles and stuff. So like, Frankenstein and the Wolfman, they get rebuilt to blow the shit out of crime. And they have adventures. So it's always been like my little like, hey, let me design an action figure line kind of idea. So about a year ago, I did a redesign really quickly for Kevin on Frankenborg, and I'm not keen on the glove design specifically, but what I did is I took that redesign and then I also did like a slimmer, trimmer, roughy sketch to kind of sort of see what people think in terms of the design of it, like if they like all the gadgets and parts, which are a pain in the ass to fucking draw on different panels when you're doing it as a comic book. However, I wasn't certain if people would even care, but apparently a lot of people seem to like the bubbly muscles and all the parts details and stuff like that. So take a look at the art. If you have an opinion about it one way or the other, please comment in that art section on Deviant and let me know. I will be taking note. Tomorrow night I'll be working on Monstroids, so I'll have a lot more updates. You can just check that DeviantArt out. And then again after Christmas I'm going to arrange that DeviantArt a lot better so you'll be able to find stuff. It's going to take a week or two just to go through all that stuff. So that is that. I'm all caught up. And it is almost 2 a.m. Perfect. All right, guys. Good talking to y'all. I will talk to y'all next week on the Making Monstroids podcast. Here is the music, right, that I'm listening to as a temp track for Monstroids. It sort of puts me in the mood. It's my unofficial Monstroids theme. Enjoy. Bye.